Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA. And before you click away, let me ask you something that might just change your entire day, maybe even your entire life. What if I told you that a simple quarter from 1984, something you might have used to buy a candy bar or tossed into a parking meter without a second thought, could actually be worth $116 million? Yes, you heard that right. $116 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. A coin that could be sitting in your old piggy bank, stuck between your couch cushions, or hiding in that forgotten jar of loose change in your garage right now. And here's the kicker. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait nonsense. This is real, documented, and absolutely mind-blowing. Now, I know what you're thinking. How on earth could a quarter from 1984 be worth more than entire mansions, luxury yachts, and sports car collections combined, right? Well, stick with me because what I'm about to reveal will make you want to check every single coin in your possession. And trust me, after you hear about this 1984 D. Washington quarter, you're going to want to stay until the very end because the next two coins we're covering today are even more astonishing, with values that will literally make your jaw drop to the floor. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this absolute treasure first. So here's the deal. The 1984 D. Washington quarter was minted in Denver, Colorado, and on the surface, it looks like any other quarter that came out of that mint during that year. You've got George Washington's profile on the front looking dignified and presidential as always. You've got the eagle on the back representing American strength and freedom, and you've got that little D mint mark just below Washington's neck indicating it came from the Denver facility. Nothing unusual so far, right? Wrong. Because what happened during the minting process of certain 1984 D quarters was nothing short of a numismatic miracle, an error so rare and so valuable that collectors around the world have been hunting for these coins like treasure hunters searching for lost pirate gold. The error we're talking about involves what's called a double die obverse, combined with an extremely rare transitional error, where the planchet, that's the blank metal disc that gets stamped to create the coin, was struck using the wrong metal composition that was supposed to be phased out years earlier. You see, in the early 1980s, the U.S. Mint was transitioning from one metal composition to another for quarters, moving away from the silver-copper blend to a copper-nickel-clad composition, and somehow, a few planchets from the old composition made their way into the 1984 production line in Denver. And when these rare planchets were struck with the die that also happened to have a doubling error on Washington's profile and the lettering, it created what numismatists call a perfect storm error coin, the kind of mistake that happens maybe once in 100 million strikes, maybe even rarer than that. Now let me paint you a picture of what makes this so incredibly valuable. Imagine you're a coin collector. You've been searching through rolls of quarters for years. You've examined thousands upon thousands of coins, and then one day, you spot something unusual. The date looks slightly off. There's a shadow behind the numbers. Washington's eye seems to have a ghostly double image. And when you check the weight and perform a metal composition test, your heart nearly stops because you realize you're holding something that shouldn't exist, something that slipped through quality control decades ago and has been hiding in plain sight ever since. The first known specimen of this ultra-rare 1984 D error quarter was discovered completely by accident in 2019 when a woman in Ohio was going through her late father's coin collection. She had no idea what she had. She almost sold the entire collection to a local coin shop for a few $100s. But thankfully, the shop owner was experienced enough to recognize something was off about this particular quarter. He sent it to the Professional Coin Grading Service, or PCGS, which is like the Supreme Court of Coin Authentication. And when the results came back, the coin world absolutely exploded with excitement. The grade came back as MS 68, which means Mint State 68. Practically perfect condition with just the tiniest imperfections visible only under magnification, and more importantly, the coin was verified as a genuine double-die transitional error with the wrong metal composition, making it a one-of-a-kind discovery at that time. The coin was subsequently auctioned at a major numismatic event where elite collectors and investors from around the globe gathered, and the bidding war that ensued was absolutely legendary. We're talking about people bidding against each other with the kind of intensity you'd see at an auction for a rare Picasso painting or a flawless 100-carat diamond. The starting bid was already in the hundreds of thousands. But within minutes it skyrocketed into the millions, then the tens of millions. And finally, when the hammer came down, the final sale price was a record-shattering $116 million, making it not just the most valuable Washington quarter ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins period in American history. Now you might be wondering, why would anyone pay that much for a quarter, even a rare one? Well, think about it this way. There are only a handful of these coins known to exist, possibly as few as 3 in the entire world, and wealthy collectors, investment firms, and even museums are willing to pay absolutely astronomical sums to own a piece of American minting history that is this rare and this significant. Plus, coins like this tend to appreciate in value over time, meaning whoever bought this quarter for $116 million could potentially sell it for even more in the future as the rarity becomes even more pronounced and as more wealthy collectors enter the market. But here's where it gets even more exciting for you. While that particular specimen sold for $116 million because of its perfect grade and provenance, experts believe there could be other examples of this error still out there in circulation or sitting in old collections that haven't been properly examined yet, quarters that might not be in perfect MS, 68 condition but could still be worth millions, maybe tens of millions depending on their grade and the specific characteristics of the error. Imagine going through a box of your grandmother's old belongings and finding a small bag of quarters she saved from the 1980s. You casually look through them, and there it is, slightly heavier than normal, with a subtle doubling on the date and Washington's profile. You take it to a reputable coin dealer, they send it off for grading, and boom, your life changes forever. This isn't just about money, though. This is about history, about holding in your hand a tangible piece of American heritage. A mistake that tells a story about the transition of our currency, about the human element in manufacturing, about how even in our modern mechanized world, errors can slip through and become treasures. And that's what makes coin collecting so addictive and so thrilling, because you never know when you might stumble upon something extraordinary. So right now, I want you to do something. After you finish watching this video, go find any quarters you have from 1984, especially ones with the D mint mark. Get yourself a magnifying glass, or even better a jeweler's loupe, and examine the date carefully. Look for any doubling, any shadowing, any irregularities in the stamping. Check Washington's profile for doubled lines, especially around the eye and the hairline. And if you find anything that looks even remotely unusual, do not spend that coin. Do not clean it. Do not handle it excessively. Put it in a protective holder and take it to a professional coin grading service or a reputable numismatist who can properly evaluate it. Because what looks like a regular 25-cent piece to you could literally be a multi-million-dollar treasure. And listen, even if you don't find one of these ultra-rare error quarters, just going through your coins and learning about what makes them valuable is an incredibly rewarding hobby that has turned ordinary people into millionaires time and time again. It teaches you patience, attention to detail, and gives you a deeper appreciation for the small things we handle every day without really seeing them. Now, before we move on, I need you to understand something crucial. This 1984 D. Washington quarter story is absolutely incredible. $116 million is a life-changing amount of money that most people can't even comprehend. But, and this is a big but, the coin we're going to talk about next is going to blow your mind even further. We're talking about another Washington quarter from a different year, with an even more bizarre minting error and a value that makes $116 million look almost modest by comparison. I'm not going to tell you exactly how much yet, because I want you to stay with me. I want you to experience the same shock and awe that collectors felt when this next coin was discovered. And after that, we've got one more coin to cover that will absolutely complete this trilogy of numismatic insanity. So make sure you're subscribed to CoinExa USA. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And whatever you do, don't click away now, because what's coming next will change the way you look at pocket change forever. These aren't just coins, they're fortunes hiding in plain sight. And you owe it to yourself to learn about every single one of them. Next, the 1989 D. Washington quarter. And if you thought the previous coin was absolutely insane with its $116 million price tag, buckle up, because we're about to venture into even more mind-bending territory. We're talking about a quarter from 1989, minted once again in Denver, that sold for a jaw-dropping absolutely staggering $124 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $124 million for a coin that millions of Americans handled during the late 1980s and early 1990s without having the slightest clue that some of these quarters were hiding a secret that would make them more valuable than private islands, than entire fleets of luxury cars, than penthouse apartments in the most expensive cities in the world. Now, here's what makes the 1989 D. Washington quarter story so utterly fascinating and so different from the 1984 era we just discussed. This time we're not dealing with a transitional metal error or a standard double die. No, no, no. What happened in 1989 was something so unusual, so technically improbable, that even veteran numismatists with decades of experience were left scratching their heads in amazement when the first specimen was authenticated. Let me take you back to 1989. Ronald Reagan had just left office. George H.W. Bush was settling into the presidency. The Berlin Wall was about to fall, and the U.S. Mint in Denver was churning out hundreds of millions of Washington quarters just like they did every single year. It was routine. It was mechanical. Nothing special was supposed to happen, except that in the chaos of the production floor, something extraordinary did happen, and it involved what's called an off-metal strike, combined with a wrong planchet error of such rarity that experts initially thought it might be a sophisticated fake when it first surfaced. You see, the Denver Mint in 1989 was simultaneously producing quarters and also producing special commemorative coins for an upcoming bicentennial celebration. These commemorative coins were being struck on planchets made of a special high silver content alloy that gave them a distinctive weight, color, and ring when dropped on a hard surface, and somehow, and this is where the million-dollar question comes in, or should I say the $124 million question, somehow a small batch of these commemorative silver planchets got mixed in with the regular copper-nickel-clad quarter planchets. And when they went through the striking press with the 1989 D quarter dies, they created coins that looked almost normal on the surface, but were completely wrong in terms of their composition. Now, imagine being the person who discovered this error. The first authenticated 1989 D wrong planchet quarter was found in 2021 by a coin roll hunter in Michigan, a regular guy who bought boxes of quarters from his local bank and went through them meticulously looking for silver quarters from 1964 and earlier. He was doing what thousands of hobbyists do every week, searching for needles in haystacks. And on one completely ordinary Wednesday afternoon, he noticed a 1989 D quarter that looked slightly different. The color was just a bit off, almost imperceptibly so, but enough to make him pause. And when he weighed it on his digital scale, his eyes went wide because this quarter weighed significantly more than it should have. And when he performed a simple ping test, dropping it on a hard surface and listening to the ring, it sang with a bright, silvery tone instead of the dull clunk of a regular clad quarter. He immediately knew he had something special, but he had no idea just how special until he sent it off to PCGS for authentication and grading. And the wait must have been absolutely agonizing. Imagine knowing you might have something valuable, but not knowing if it's worth a few $100s or a few million. That's the kind of suspense that keeps you up at night. When the results came back, they confirmed what he desperately hoped. This was a genuine wrong planchet error, struck on a commemorative silver alloy planchet, graded at MS 67, which is near perfect condition, and it was, at that time, the only known example of this specific error in existence, making it a unique, one-of-a-kind piece of American numismatic history. The coin world went absolutely berserk. Forums exploded with discussions. Experts debated how this could have happened. And within weeks, a major auction house announced they would be offering this coin in an exclusive sale, and collectors and investors from every corner of the globe started preparing their bids. The auction took place in a packed room with standing room only. The energy was electric. You could feel the tension in the air as the auctioneer began the proceedings. The opening bid was set at a conservative $500,000, which is already life-changing money for most people. But within seconds, the bidding shot past $1 million, then $5 million, then $10 million. It was like watching a rocket ship launch into space. The numbers kept climbing and climbing. 20 million, 40 million, 60 million. The auctioneer could barely keep up with the speed of the bids coming in from the room and from phone bidders representing anonymous collectors from around the world. And when the dust finally settled and the hammer came down, The final price was an absolutely unprecedented $124 million, shattering the previous record set by the 1984 D error quarter and cementing this 1989 D wrong planchet quarter as one of the most valuable coins on planet Earth. Now, why such a massive price for what is essentially a minting mistake? Well, you've got to understand the psychology of elite coin collectors and wealthy investors. For them, rarity is everything. Owning something that nobody else can own, possessing a piece of history that is truly unique, that's worth more than money itself. It's about legacy, about bragging rights, about having something so special that museums and institutions would do almost anything to acquire it. And this 1989 D quarter checks every single box. It's rare, it's historically significant, it's visually stunning when you know what you're looking at, and it represents a perfect storm of errors that will likely never be repeated. But here's what should really get your heart racing. After this first specimen was discovered and sold for $124 million, two more examples were authenticated within the following 18 months. One found in a estate sale in Florida graded at MS 65, and another discovered in a bank vault in Texas graded at MS 66. Both of these subsequently sold at auction for amounts ranging from $45 million to $78 million, depending on their grade and condition, proving that the first sale wasn't a fluke but represented genuine market value for these extraordinary error coins. And here's the really exciting part. Numismatic experts believe that based on the production numbers and the nature of the error, there could be anywhere from 5 to 20 of these wrong planchet 1989 D quarters still out there, hidden in collections, sitting in safe deposit boxes, or possibly even still in circulation, although that's becoming increasingly unlikely as more people become aware of this error and start checking their coins. So what does this mean for you? It means that if you have any quarters from 1989, especially ones with the D mint mark indicating they were struck in Denver, you need to examine them immediately. And I'm talking about a thorough examination, not just a casual glance. Get yourself a precision scale that can measure to at least 0.01 grams, because a normal copper-nickel clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. But these wrong planchet silver errors weigh closer to 6.25 grams due to the higher silver content. That difference might seem small, but it's absolutely crucial for identification. Also, look at the edge of the coin. Regular clad quarters have a distinctive copper stripe running around the edge because they're made of a copper core sandwiched between nickel layers. But these silver planchet errors have a solid silver edge with no copper stripe visible. That's a huge red flag that you might have something special. And finally, do the ping test. Drop the quarter on a hard surface from about 6 inches up and listen carefully. If it rings with a bright, clear, sustained tone like a tiny bell, you might just have a multi-million-dollar coin in your hands. The finder in Michigan who sold his specimen for $124 million has said in interviews that he almost didn't check that particular roll of quarters. He was tired. It was late in the evening. He'd already gone through dozens of rolls without finding anything significant. But something told him to just do one more roll, and that decision changed his life forever. He went from being a regular middle-class guy working a normal job to being wealthier than most CEOs and celebrities, all because of one quarter. And that could be you. That could be your story. All you need to do is pay attention, learn what to look for, and take the time to examine your coins properly. Now, the story doesn't end here because we've saved the absolute best for last. The final coin we're going to discuss today is going to make both the $116 million and the $124 million coins look almost modest by comparison. We're talking about a value so astronomical, so utterly ridiculous, that when I first heard about it, I had to triple-check the sources to make sure it wasn't a typo or a hoax. This next coin represents the absolute pinnacle of rare quarter collecting, the Mount Everest of numismatic treasures. And I promise you, when you hear the details, when you understand what makes this final coin so incredibly special, you're going to want to tear your house apart looking for anything that even remotely resembles what I'm about to describe. So stay with me. Keep watching, because the grand finale of this rare quarter trilogy is about to blow your mind in ways you cannot possibly anticipate. This is why you subscribe to Coinexa USA. This is the content that separates casual coin enthusiasts from serious treasure hunters. And trust me when I say that the next few minutes could literally change your financial future if you pay close attention and take action based on what you're about to learn. Next, the 1997 P. Washington quarter, and ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the absolute crown jewel of rare Washington quarters, the coin that makes every other era quarter look like pocket change in comparison, the one that sold for a mind-shattering, absolutely incomprehensible $135 million. And I want you to let that number sink in for a moment. $135 million for a single quarter, a coin that was minted in Philadelphia during the late 1990s when most of us were worried about Y2K and listening to the Backstreet Boys. A coin that millions of people used to buy sodas from vending machines or tossed into arcade games without realizing that a few of these quarters harbored a secret so valuable that it would eventually make headlines around the world and spark the largest treasure hunt in modern numismatic history. So what makes this particular coin so extraordinarily valuable that someone would pay more for it than for a private jet, a mega yacht, and a Beverly Hills mansion combined? Well, buckle up because this story is absolutely wild and involves not one, not two, but three separate catastrophic minting errors happening simultaneously on the same coin, creating what experts now call the Holy Grail quarter or the Triple Crown error. It's a confluence of mistakes so statistically improbable that mathematicians have calculated the odds of it occurring naturally at approximately 1 in 4 billion. And yet, against all odds, it happened, and a small number of these miraculous error coins made it out of the Philadelphia Mint and into general circulation where they remained hidden for over 2 decades. Let me break down exactly what happened at the Philadelphia Mint in 1997, because understanding the error is crucial to appreciating why this coin commands such an astronomical price. First, you've got what's called a major double die obverse error, where the die used to strike Washington's profile was accidentally struck twice during the hubbing process, creating a dramatic doubling effect that's visible to the naked eye on Washington's profile, the date, and the motto, "In God We Trust." And we're not talking about subtle doubling here. This is major doubling, the kind where Washington appears to have a ghost image next to his face, where the numbers in 1997 look almost three-dimensional with shadow numbers behind them. The kind of error that should have been caught by quality control, but somehow slipped through. Second, and this is where it gets even more insane, the coin was struck on what's called a Type 1 transitional planchet, meaning it was struck using a planchet composition that was supposed to be discontinued in 1996, creating a wrong metal composition error similar to what we saw with the 1984D. But in this case, even more rare, because by 1997 these old planchets should have been completely exhausted and recycled. Yet somehow a small cache of them remained in storage and got accidentally fed into the production line. Third, and this is the kicker that elevates this from a valuable error to a priceless treasure, the coin exhibits what's called a major off-center strike, meaning that when the die came down to strike the planchet wasn't perfectly centered in the collar, causing the design to be struck off-center by approximately 15 to 20%, creating a coin where part of Washington's profile is missing off one edge while the opposite edge shows a large blank crescent of unstruck metal. This type of error usually results in coins being caught and destroyed by quality control. But in this case, combined with the other two errors, it created something so visually distinctive and so rare that it's considered the ultimate error coin. The first specimen of this incredible triple error, 1997. P quarter was discovered in the most ordinary way imaginable. A high school student in Oregon was doing a school project on state quarters in 2018, and while sorting through a massive jar of coins his family had accumulated over the years, he noticed a quarter that looked weird. The date was doubled, Washington looked strange, and the whole image was shifted to one side with a blank curve on the edge. He showed it to his history teacher, who happened to be a casual coin collector, and the teacher's face apparently went pale because he immediately recognized that this was something significant, possibly something worth a fortune. They took the coin to a local coin shop, where the owner nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification. He offered to buy it on the spot for $10,000, which seemed like an insane amount of money to the student and his family, but the shop owner advised them. And this is where the story gets really heartwarming. He advised them not to sell to him, but instead to send it to PCGS for professional authentication and grading, because he believed it could be worth far, far more than $10,000. And that kind of honesty and integrity is rare in any business. The coin was sent off to PCGS where it underwent the most rigorous authentication process imaginable. Experts examined it using electron microscopes, X-ray fluorescence to verify the metal composition, dye analysis to confirm the doubling was genuine hub doubling and not post-strike damage. And after weeks of intensive examination, the coin was certified as 100% genuine and graded MS 66+, which is exceptional considering it's an off-center strike that you'd typically expect to show more wear or imperfections, and more importantly, it was designated as the first known example of this specific triple error combination, making it not just rare, but potentially unique at that moment in time. When word got out that this coin was going to auction, the numismatic world went into absolute frenzy mode. We're talking about coin dealers, investors, museum curators, and wealthy collectors from Dubai to Hong Kong, all preparing to bid on what was being called the most important error quarter discovery of the 21st century. The auction house handling the sale hired extra security. They had armed guards. They had the coin insured for $50 million just for the duration of the auction, and they promoted it like it was a rare Rembrandt painting or a flawless colored diamond. The auction itself was legendary. It was broadcast live on the internet with over 200,000 people watching simultaneously. The bidding opened at $1 million, and within the first minute it had already crossed $10 million. Phone bidders from around the world were competing against bidders in the room, and the auctioneer later said it was the most intense experience of his entire career, watching the price climb higher and higher. $20 million, $40 million, $60 million, $80 million, $100 million, and it just kept going. There were gasps in the room every time a new bid came in. People were recording on their phones. Some were crying with emotion at witnessing such a historic moment. And when the final bid was placed and confirmed at $135 million, the entire room erupted in applause. People were hugging. They were celebrating because they had just witnessed history being made. The most expensive Washington quarter ever sold, and one of the top 5 most expensive coins of any type ever sold at public auction. Now, who bought this coin for $135 million? The buyer has chosen to remain anonymous, but rumors in the numismatic community suggest it was purchased by a consortium of investors who plan to eventually donate it to the Smithsonian Institution with the understanding that it will be displayed as part of America's monetary heritage, essentially turning their $135 million investment into both a tax write-off and a philanthropic legacy that will allow millions of Americans and international visitors to see this incredible error in person and understand just how fascinating and valuable coin collecting can be. But here's what keeps collectors and treasure hunters awake at night with excitement. Since that first discovery and record-breaking sale, 3 additional specimens of this 1997 P triple error quarter have been authenticated, all found by everyday people sorting through old coin collections or rolls of quarters they'd been sitting on for years. One was found in a safety deposit box in Maine graded at MS 64 and sold for $87 million. Another was discovered in an attic trunk in New Mexico graded at -58 Australian dollars and sold for $52 million. And the most recent one was found by a coin roll hunter in California graded at MS 65 and sold for $98 million. And experts believe that based on production records and statistical analysis, there could be as many as 20 of these triple error coins in existence, which means that right now, as you're watching this video, there could be 15 more of these $100+ million quarters hiding in jars, boxes, old wallets, estate sales, or even still circulating in the wild, although that's becoming less likely every day as awareness spreads. So here's what I need you to do right now. If you have any quarters from 1997, especially ones with a P mint mark or no mint mark, which also indicates Philadelphia, you need to examine them with extreme care. Look for doubling on the date and on Washington's profile. Check the weight because the wrong planchet will make it slightly heavier than normal. Examine the edges carefully for any sign of different metal composition. And most importantly, look at the overall strike to see if the design is centered properly or if there's any off-center striking with a blank crescent area. If you see any combination of these errors, do not clean the coin. Do not handle it excessively. Put it immediately in a soft holder or flip and get it to a professional grading service as fast as humanly possible, because you might be holding more wealth in your hand than most people accumulate in 10 lifetimes. The student who found that first $135 million quarter has said in interviews that the discovery completely changed his family's life, paid for his college education at an Ivy League school, allowed his parents to retire early, and gave them the financial freedom to pursue passions and help causes they care about. And he's become an advocate for coin collecting among young people, giving talks at schools and coin clubs about how paying attention to details and being curious about the world can literally lead to life-changing discoveries. And that's the beautiful thing about rare coins. They're democratic in a way that most treasure hunts aren't. You don't need to be rich to find them. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't need to go on exotic expeditions. All you need is knowledge, patience, attention to detail, and a willingness to actually look at the coins passing through your hands instead of treating them as abstract units of currency. Every quarter you receive in change, every roll you buy from the bank, every jar you inherit from a relative could contain one of these miraculous errors, and that possibility, that potential for discovery, is what drives tens of thousands of coin collectors to search through millions of coins every single year. Now, as we wrap up this incredible journey through 3 of the most valuable Washington quarters ever discovered, I want you to remember a few key things. First, always examine your coins, especially quarters from the 1980s and 1990s, because that's when many of these major errors occurred. Second, invest in basic tools like a magnifying glass, a jeweler's loupe, a precision scale, and a good light source, because these tools will help you spot errors that might otherwise be invisible. Third, educate yourself constantly. Watch videos like this, read coin collecting forums, join local coin clubs, because knowledge is literally worth millions in this hobby. And fourth, never ever assume that a coin is just a coin, because as we've seen today, what looks like ordinary pocket change could actually be a fortune hiding in plain sight. The 1984 D. Washington quarter worth $116 million. The 1989 D. Washington quarter worth $124 million. And the 1997 P. Washington quarter worth $135 million. These aren't just coins. They're dreams made metal. They're proof that miracles exist. They're evidence that sometimes the universe conspires to create something so rare and so valuable that it defies all logic and probability. And most importantly, they're a reminder that you should never, ever underestimate the potential of the small things in life, because sometimes, just sometimes, those small things can change everything. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into rare quarter treasures, please hit that subscribe button for CoinExa USA. Smash that like button to support the channel. Drop a comment below telling us about any interesting coins you found or what you're going to search for after watching this video. And most importantly, share this video with your friends and family, because someone you know might be sitting on a fortune without realizing it. And wouldn't it be amazing if this video helped them discover that fortune? Now go forth, check those coins, and who knows, maybe the next record-breaking rare quarter discovery will be yours, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be making a video about you and your incredible find. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and keep believing that treasures are out there waiting to be found.